I've seen a lot of discussions in chat rooms and on websites about this opinion that dogfights are dead because of the capabilities of fifth and sixth generation airplanes. When I complain that modern fighters are slow relative to the F-14, especially the B and the D that could go upwards of Mach 2, whereas a Super Hornet or an F-35 is maybe Mach 1.1, engineers, program managers, developmental test pilots will say that number doesn't matter anymore because of forward quarter lethality, because of stealth, because of the way the weapon system functions. For instance, an F-35 pilot can actually commit a weapon to an airplane that's behind him because of that visor being the heads-up display. An F-35 pilot can look behind him, designate a target, and fire a missile, and it'll hit an airplane behind him. So, as a Tomcat guy, especially early in my air-to-air career when we only had the AIM-9 Lima, which was basically a rear quarter weapon, the idea of being able to shoot somebody who's behind you is a brave new world. But I'm going to submit that dogfighting is not dead, because if you've ever been in a major exercise, not to mention an air-to-air war like Desert Storm, then you know that in the heat of battle, there's confusion, there's all kinds of chaos, and ultimately a bandit is going to sneak through and you'll find yourself basically engaged one-on-one with the bad guys in an old school kind of way. So let's talk about the basics of dogfighting. So first off, before you ever get in the arena, you have to know your airplane. What are the capabilities of your airplane with respect to turn rate in degrees per second, with respect to cornering speed, which is where you get the most G available at what airspeed, which creates the best turn rate in degrees per second. It's not more is better. For instance, an F-16N turns best at 350, 375. It does not turn well at 450. In fact, I found this out the hard way when I was flying in the backseat of a VF-43 Viper with a good friend of mine, Monty Hall. He gave me the airplane for an engagement. I entered the merge at 450 knots and immediately, side stick, torqued on 9Gs and basically was kicking my own ass as the airplane had a sub-optimum turn rate. And Monty finally said, throttle back, we're going too fast. So I did that. And now the airplane starts biting and turning at the optimum rate. So pilots got to know what are their airplane's performance characteristics. Climb rate, thrust to weight, ability to bug out. What is that? Is that 1G? Is it half a G? Where do you get the best acceleration? Further, you have to understand your enemy's capabilities. And so you have to know the enemy air order of battle, because when you go into harm's way, or even in an exercise, an air-to-air exercise, you might not know which of the bandit mix you're going to face. Is it a MiG-23 or a MiG-21? MiG-25, MiG-29. So sometimes you'll find out from your airborne early warning asset, AWACS or E2, they'll give you that intel on the way in, and sometimes it won't happen until the tally. And so that's last second information, and you have to be able to react instinctively in order to get the kill or return to fight another day. So the other thing we need to think about and be prepared for before we start to dogfight is the physical aspects of air combat maneuvering. No other flight regime is as punishing as dogfighting. So you have to have good core strength. You have to be flexible because the bandit won't always be here. Sometimes he's there on the lift vector, and then sometimes he's there. So you have to be able to torque around, put the pull on, fight the G, and prosecute the attack. So this is a physical part of the mission. You have to be in good shape and you have to use good G-lock techniques. So back in the day, we had this thing called the hook maneuver. So the hook maneuver was where you'd literally say hook, hook, to keep the blood from pooling in your lower extremities. But they realized that you were actually exhausting yourself in a way that was inefficient. And so now, basically, you just constrict your torso and your legs to keep the blood from pooling in your lower extremities. This is something you have to practice and you have to be good at, because knocking yourself out by putting on the G will make the airplane go to 1G, and that's a good way to get shot by an enemy that's rolled in on you. Or if you're a Rio or a Wizzo, and as you're trying to check 6, the G has made you gray out and now you can't see, you're of no help to the pilot. So we got to work hard for the entire engagement and make sure that we don't gray out or worse, black out. Okay, so G tolerance is huge. So let's talk about the two basic kinds of engagements at the merge. We got our training aids here. So these are Legacy Hornets, which we can tell by the shape of the intakes. The Legacy Hornet is no more in the US Navy. So let's not get caught up in what type of airplanes these are. These represent every airplane for the purposes of our training session. Let's talk about the two types of initial moves at the merge. The first fight is a one circle fight. Okay, so get to the merge in a training environment, 500 feet, bubble around all aircraft, as we talked about in the last episode, ACM Training Rules of Engagement. So a one circle fight would be, if this guy went this way, we would go this way and generate one circle flow. And this is true in every plane, but let's just talk about horizontal. So one circle flow. The other option would be a two circle fight. So get to the merge, bandit goes this way, we go this way, and now we've generated a two circle fight. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each? Well, one circle fight is if you want to keep it very tight. You don't want this guy to get away from you. And also, you know you have a better turn rate. So basically the trick of a one circle fight is to get nose on first and keep it jammed up. Keep sight. Two circle fight is to generate some distance so that when you come back around, you might be able to shoot a forward quarter weapon before you merge the second time. Let's say you're going against a MiG-23 and you're in a Tomcat or a Hornet. You'd want to go one circle with that guy. And the reason is because the MiG-23 is a fast airplane. It's a little airplane, so you want to keep him close. Also, it's kind of a pig in terms of turn rate. And forward quarter shot capability is limited. So that's a good airplane to generate one circle flow and then be able to keep it tight. Let's say you're fighting a fourth or fifth gen airplane like a MiG-29. Well, that's a good candidate for two circle fight. because you want to get enough lat sep that you might be able to come nose on across the circle before he does and shoot him with, say, Fox 1 or an AMRAM, Sparrow and AMRAM across the circle before you merge again. Now, the other way to think about the initial merge is, are you going to make the first move or are you going to react to what he does? So sometimes you come in with a pre-planned move and you're trying to define the fight in a certain way. So let's say I get to the merge with a third or fourth gen airplane that doesn't have very good climb capability. Okay, so I'm going to want to take it uphill, especially if I'm in an airplane that has close to 1-to-1 thrust to weight, like an F-15C or an F-14B without tanks, and hope that he tries to go up with us. So now we get into this vertical fight where the trick is keep your airplane flying as long as possible, because the first airplane to fall off and stall is going to lose. So airplanes that can fly at high angle of attack, like the Tomcat. The Tomcat was able to fly at 30 units, especially the B or the D, for a long period of time. And so you're trying to get separation, trying to work it backwards. This guy's in heavy buffet. He falls off, and now you boot rudders and take the shot. Okay, so if you get to the merge with like an F-15C, which is a scream machine in the vertical, maybe you don't want to go uphill with that guy. Maybe wherever he goes, you generate the two-circle flow, including extend. Hope he loses sight, come back in and take the kill. And then another variation of the two-circle fight is the bug out. So there is an art to getting out of the fight. And this is where speed matters. So I get it, stealth, I get it, forward quarter lethality, I get it, visor is your HUD, but sometimes you're going to want to just get out of there. And if you can barely bust the number, you might get chased down. The Tomcat, again, the B and the D, were very fast. So if we decided it was time to get out of there because the Bandit was pressing the advantage, we would unweight. Half a G was your best acceleration. Full burner, unweight, and just go. Now you're listening to the GCI tell you, Bandit's turning on you, not a threat, but you just either go away or get enough distance that you could redefine the fight and turn back in so the Rio could reestablish a radar picture, and now you could either recommit forward quarter weapons or go to the merge again and try again. Now, in a training environment, there are some things that you have to do that are, let's just call them admin. Just say, okay, speed and angels on the left, speed and angels on the right, fight's on, boom. We hassle for a while. Fox 2, good kill, knock it off. Roger, knock it off. So now we separate for another one, but as we separate, pilots and Rios in each airplane are taking quick notes. What happened in the engagement, the spaghetti. The ability to capture the engagement through note-taking is crucial and a real sign of a professional fighter pilot. In fact, in Top Gun, they spend a couple of classroom sessions teaching the folks going through how to annotate a dogfight properly. So let's go through some of those basic annotations. All right, so green is fighter, red is bandit. So now, how you draw an arrowhead is important. You don't go like this. You go like this. Start with the outside of the arrowhead and work your way in. Okay, so Fighter turned right. Bandit turned left. That's your first move. One circle fight. Okay. Second merge. Bandit keeps the left turn going. Fighter reverses and goes left and takes a shot. Fox 2. So you'd annotate that. And if the missile hits, you give it one of these. If it misses, you keep going. So let's say in this case, it missed. So we kept pressing. Now we're going to press it to a guns attack. Bandit continues left hand turn. Fighter presses into a gun solution. Guns, pipper down, track, good kill. Knock it off. Okay, so that's what the spaghetti would look like on your knee board. So you're doing this in seconds between engagements. Obviously, pilots are looking down and looking over, make sure you're not going to have a midair. And Rios are not just along for the ride, they're also capturing the fight. So another bit of annotation, basic symbology that you should know about in terms of basic dogfighting is this. So this indicates a climb. This indicates a descent. This symbol is what we call a bullseye, means the airplane went into the vertical, pure vertical. If any of these were descending turns or climbing turns, we would use these symbols to indicate that. Okay, so we're done with the flight. We land, flight gear off. We don't go right to the TACTS trailer. Okay, so remember in Top Gun when the Top Gun crews are in there with Charlie in the TACTS trailer and she says, Maverick does a split S? That's absolutely the wrong move. And I know that some gaming systems, DCS and others, have amazing debrief capability where the airplanes are scribed through the sky and you can freeze it. It's like a coach's clicker. What you need to do is before you go into those forums, you need to circle up with the aviators who were in your event, in your ready room, and let's call it get your story straight. So this is where you're breaking out your knee boards and somebody's going to the whiteboard. Maybe you'll go around the room, pilots and Rios, and go, okay, hey, Mooch, what happened in the second engagement? So if I don't have the story straight, or I'm like, gee, I don't know, that's bad form. So I'll go up to the whiteboard and I'll draw it out. And maybe at some point, somebody go, no, that's not how I remember it. I think we actually went left, or no, we didn't take that winder shot there. So you compare notes. But it's best if the guy at the whiteboard absolutely has his or her facts straight. Okay, so note-taking is crucial, and then circling up before you get to the TACTS trailer for the mass gaggle debrief is very important. Okay, so now we've got everything straight. Jump into the duty van or somebody's car, drive over to the TACTS trailer where the aggressors, wherever they're from. Let's say in this case where our aggressors were from Top Gun. So we walk in the room. Before they roll tape, or as they roll tape, they're going to stop it and ask you to say what happens next, and ask you to justify every shot you took. So it's a bad idea to walk into that forum cold. Best practice, debrief before the debrief and make sure you have your story straight. So those are the basics of air combat maneuvering, dogfighting. And we'll talk in more detail as we go forward about specific airplanes. But this is just a starting point. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Let me remind you that Punk's War, my debut novel, is on sale at USNI Press at usni.org/press/books/punks-war. 90% off for the entire month of May. Take advantage of this. As I also said, we're working on getting the other 2 titles in the Punks trilogy available very easily going forward, including Kindle and audiobook. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you for your support, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.